DiCamillo is the director of the UC Berkeley IGS poll. Thanks so much for being with us. Let's start with President Biden and put these results up on the screen, give you a sense of where we are at right now. You look at President Biden among California voters, 44% approval rating, 52% disapprove, underwater with voters when it comes to his handling of immigration, inflation, crime, the economy, the Israel-Hamas war, China, among other issues. This is a state that he won by about 30 points. What do you make of this in terms of the trend?
Well, it's a pretty broad-based decline. If you look across the subgroups of the electorate, just about every subgroup has lost favor. And I think the more interesting ones to me are that it really has to do with the swing voter blocks, which would be the no-party preference voters, the moderate voters. Both of those groups are now 5-3 on the negative side for Biden. And also, as you get younger and younger into the electorate, Biden's job ratings get worse and worse. And I would think back in 2020, the young vote was really on his side, and it turned out in a fairly big way. That doesn't look like it's going to happen this time around, at least not with these approval ratings.
Of course, he's not in danger right now of losing California, but if this is happening in California, that's not good news when you think of the swing states, and we're seeing similar numbers there. Meanwhile, Governor Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who of course has been projecting himself on the world stage on a lot of different things, including this big trip to China that he just took, now underwater with California voters for the first time of his governorship. 44% approval rating, 49% disapproving. That's a 5% net negative. It's a 21% swing since the last time the poll was taken back in February. Are California voters saying essentially, we don't like the fact that you spend so much time talking about Florida and Texas and campaigning in other states and not focused on here?
I think that's pretty much true. We've seen this in the past with prior governors. When Jerry Brown was running for governor, his job, or for president, his job rating went in the tank. I don't think he ever recovered after in 1980. The same thing, actually, Pete Wilson, when he had a little foray into presidential sweepstakes. But I think for here, it's really Newsom's own, he really wants to turn his attention to national issues. I think most reporters would tell you that he's not really engaged that much in California-related matters. He'd rather talk about national issues and be a spokesperson for the National Democratic Party. I think it's really hurting him with California voters. So I think that's probably what's going on right now.
Of course, Newsom would disagree with that. And it's also important to point out he doesn't have to run in any more California elections. He's termed out. So his only focus at this point is potentially that other job, which, of course, he says he never, ever, ever, ever is interested in or even thinking about ever. Meanwhile, a guy who is running for president and has been president before, Donald Trump. Let's take a look at the Republican race in California. Republicans, more delegates here in California than any other state in the country. And look at this. Donald Trump way out ahead, 57%. Ron DeSantis behind him at 12, Nikki Haley at 9, Vivek Ramaswamy at 3. Even though Donald Trump not that popular in California among all voters, among Republicans, way up in terms of him.
No question. This is very similar to a poll we did in August. We had Trump at 55%, and those were the first polls that showed him above 50%, which is very significant because in this state, you're awarded all the state's delegates if you get a majority, 50% statewide. We're seeing that now in 2 straight polls. I think that's increasingly likely. So, and the other thing about our poll is that DeSantis, who at one point actually led Trump early on in the election cycle, but he has gone really downhill. He's down to 12% in our current poll. He was 16% in August. He was 23% in May. It's a straight downhill road for him. Nikki Haley's slightly coming up, but she's still in single digits. It looks like Trump's race to lose.
And that election here in California is in March, although people will start to vote by mail in February of next year. Mark DiCamillo, thank you so much. Really, really interesting results. You can find more of them on your website and also at latimes.com as well. You partner with them on this. Thanks so much, Mark.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.